My girlfriend promised to break up with me if I cut my hair short. After I did, she started cheating with different men every day. My girlfriend, Sarah, and I had been together for 2 years. We met through mutual friends at a bar, hit it off over our shared love for hiking, and moved in together after a year. I'm 27, a graphic designer working remotely, and Sarah, 25, was a yoga instructor with a big social media following. She was particular about appearances, always posting about fitness and style, and she loved my long hair. I'd grown it out for years, down to my shoulders, because she said it suited me. She'd joke that if I ever cut it short, she'd dump me, saying it was her thing. I laughed it off, thinking it was just playful banter, but she'd bring it up often, especially when I mentioned wanting a change. I started feeling like my long hair was a hassle. It took forever to wash, got in the way at work, and I was tired of the upkeep. I told Sarah I was thinking about cutting it short, just a clean buzz cut for something new. She got serious, repeating that she'd break up with me if I did, saying it'd ruin my vibe. I thought she was half joking, but her tone was sharp and she'd get quiet whenever I brought it up. I held off for months, not wanting to rock the boat, but the idea stuck with me. I wanted to feel like myself, not just keep a look for her. One day, I decided to go for it. I went to a barber, got a short fade, and felt lighter, more confident. I didn't tell Sarah beforehand, figuring I'd surprise her and she'd get over it. When I got home, Sarah was furious. She stared at my hair, said I'd ignored her feelings, and left the apartment for a few hours. I thought she'd cool off, but she barely spoke to me that night. The next day, she was distant, spending hours on her phone, texting and scrolling. I noticed she was dressing up more, leaving for work in tight outfits she hadn't worn before. She said she was teaching extra yoga classes, but her schedule didn't show any new sessions when I checked our shared calendar. I started paying attention to her habits, wondering if she was serious about the breakup threat or just mad about the hair. A few days later, I saw her post a story on social media from a downtown bar, posing with a guy I didn't recognize. She hadn't mentioned going out, and when I texted to ask, she said it was a client networking thing. The guy was tagged, some fitness influencer with a flashy profile. I saved the story, noting the time and place. The next night, she went out again, this time to a club, posting with another guy, a DJ she'd followed for a while. I saved that too, seeing a pattern. She was coming home late, sometimes not until morning, claiming she'd crashed at a friend's. I checked her yoga studio's website and saw no evening classes scheduled, which didn't add up. I decided to dig deeper. I looked at her public social media and saw comments from different guys, flirty ones, on her posts, which she liked or replied to with emojis. I took screenshots of those, along with her stories showing her out with men. I also noticed our joint bank account had small withdrawals, $50 here, $30 there, for ride shares and drinks, things she hadn't mentioned. I saved the transaction records. I wasn't ready to confront her yet. I needed more proof she was cheating, not just upset about my haircut. I set up a plan to track her outings, checking her posts in our account more closely, and even considered following her one night to see where she was really going. I wanted to believe she was just acting out, but the signs were pointing to something worse, and I had to know the truth before deciding what to do. Sarah's behavior was getting harder to ignore after I cut my hair short against her wishes. She was barely home, claiming she was teaching extra yoga classes or staying with friends, but her stories didn't add up. I'd saved screenshots of her social media posts showing her at bars and clubs with different guys, flirty comments she'd liked, and bank records of withdrawals for ride shares and drinks that didn't match her supposed work schedule. Her yoga studio had no evening classes listed, and she was coming home late, sometimes not until morning. I was growing certain she was cheating, but I needed concrete evidence to confirm it before deciding what to do about our relationship. I decided to dig deeper into her activities. I noticed Sarah had started using a new messaging app on her phone, one she hadn't used before. When she left her phone charging one evening, I saw a notification from a guy named Mark mentioning a great time at a lounge. I didn't unlock her phone, but I took a photo of the screen, capturing the message and timestamp. I checked her public social media and found a story from the same night, showing her at a fancy lounge with a man I didn't recognize, tagged as a local DJ.
She was dressed in a way she never did for work, and the story was posted at 1 a.m. when she'd said she was at a coworker's place. I saved the story and noted the location. To get more proof, I checked our apartment's Wi-Fi router logs, which showed when Sarah's phone connected. Her device was often offline at night, suggesting she was either turning it off or leaving it somewhere, which wasn't like her. I also looked at our joint credit card statement online and found a $100 charge for a restaurant I'd never been to, made the same night as the lounge story. I downloaded the statement and cross-referenced it with her social media, finding another post from a rooftop bar with a different guy, a fitness coach, the following night. I saved that post too, building a timeline of her outings with different men. I wanted to see where she was going in person. One night, Sarah said she was teaching a late yoga class and wouldn't be back until after midnight. I checked her studio's website, no classes after 6 p.m. I took my bike and followed her car from a distance, keeping my hoodie up to stay discreet. She drove to a downtown hotel, not a yoga studio, and met a man in the lobby who matched the fitness coach from her post. They went to the hotel bar and I waited outside, taking photos of her car and the entrance, noting the time. She didn't come out for hours, and I left when it got late, but I saved the photos and checked her social media later. She'd posted a story from the hotel bar, tagging the same guy with no mention of yoga. I reached out to a mutual friend, Jess, who worked at Sarah's yoga studio, asking if Sarah had been teaching extra classes. Jess said Sarah hadn't taught evenings in weeks and had been vague about her schedule. I asked Jess to keep it quiet, but saved her text as more evidence. I also found an email on our shared laptop, left open by Sarah from a dating app confirming a profile update. The email included a photo of her, one I'd taken months ago, and listed her as single. I took a screenshot of the email and added it to my folder, which now had photos, social media posts, bank records, and Jess's text. I wasn't ready to confront Sarah yet. I wanted to catch her in a way she couldn't deny. My plan was to keep tracking her movements, maybe follow her again, and gather enough proof to confront her at a moment when she'd have to face the truth about her daily cheating. Sarah's late nights and shady behavior continued, and I was determined to confront her with undeniable proof of her cheating. I decided to set a trap to catch her in the act. I told her I'd be away for a weekend work project, saying I'd be unreachable at a client's office out of town. In reality, I stayed at a friend's place nearby, keeping my phone on to monitor her social media and our joint bank account. That Friday night, Sarah posted a story from a nightclub, dancing with a new guy, a bartender she'd tagged before. The post showed her an address she'd bought recently, and the timestamp was 11 p.m. when she'd claimed she was teaching a yoga workshop. I saved the story and checked the bank account, spotting a $60 charge for drinks at the same club. I drove to the nightclub, parking across the street to watch the entrance. Around 1 a.m., Sarah left with the bartender, heading to a nearby diner. I followed at a distance, staying out of sight, and took photos of them sitting close in a booth, laughing and sharing food. I noted the time and saved the images. The next night, she posted another story, this time from a rooftop bar with a different man, a photographer whose profile showed he'd been commenting on her posts for weeks. I saved that story too and checked the bank account, finding a $45 charge for a rideshare to the bar's address. I decided to follow her again, this time to a hotel where the photographer's story showed them checking in together. I took a photo of her car in the hotel lot and left, adding it to my evidence. To strengthen my case, I reached out to another coworker from Sarah's yoga studio, Mia, who I'd met at a staff party. I asked if Sarah had been acting off or mentioning new people. Mia said Sarah had bragged about dating around to other instructors, saying she was free since I'd cut my hair. Mia thought it was a joke but noticed Sarah was skipping shifts to go out. I asked Mia to email me what she'd heard, and she sent a short note confirming Sarah's comments, which I saved. I also checked Sarah's public calendar app, where she'd added a date night event for the following evening, linked to a restaurant reservation under her name, and a guy's I didn't recognize. I screenshotted the entry, noting it wasn't with me. I wanted one final piece of evidence. I used a fake social media account to message the photographer, posing as a fan of his work, and asked if he'd been at the hotel with a yoga instructor. He replied casually, confirming he'd hung out with Sarah and thought she was single. I saved the chat, which included a photo of them together at the hotel bar. With this, my folder was packed. Nightclub photos, social media stories, bank charges, Mia's email, the calendar event, and the photographer's message. I planned to confront Sarah when I returned from my fake work trip, using our apartment as the setting to lay out everything. I also contacted a friend who was a landlord, asking about breaking our lease if things went south, and saved his advice about my options. The confrontation was set for Sunday night when Sarah would be home. I prepared a timeline of her outings, linking each piece of evidence to dates and places, and backed it all up on a USB drive. I wasn't sure if she'd deny it or try to justify her actions, but I wanted to be ready for anything. My goal wasn't just to end things, it was to make her see she couldn't hide what she'd done. I also started looking at apartments for myself, knowing our relationship was likely over. The betrayal stung, but gathering this evidence gave me a sense of control, and I was ready to face her with the truth about her daily cheating with different men.